Okay, let's dive right in. Think about a super common business scenario. One company buys a chunk of another, right? Not enough to take over the whole thing, but definitely enough to have a real say in what happens. This creates a really interesting puzzle for accountants. How do you actually show that relationship on the books? So, let's make it real. Say company A grabs a 30% stake in company B. What's the next move, accounting-wise? Do they just write down the purchase price and call it a day? Or is there a better, more accurate way to show their ongoing interest in company B's success or, its failures?
And this is that classic gray area we're talking about. Company A doesn't have the final say on everything. That's what we call control. But with a 30% stake, they're definitely not just sitting on the sidelines watching. They have influence. They have a seat at the table. And that specific situation needs its own special rule.
And lucky for us, there is one. Let me introduce you to International Accounting Standard 28, or IAS 28 for short. This is pretty much the official rule book that's been designed to solve this exact investment puzzle.
Basically, this standard is the go-to guide for what the accounting world calls investments in associates and joint ventures. It's all about making sure that companies, no matter where they are, report these influential stakes in a way that's consistent and totally transparent.
The goal of the standard is crystal clear, and it really does two things. First, it lays down the law for these kinds of investments. And second, it tells accountants exactly how to do the math by using something called the equity method. And don't worry, we're going to get to that in just a second. But before we start crunching any numbers, we have to understand the trigger. The whole standard really hangs on this one key idea: significant influence. This is what it truly means to have that seat at the decision-making table. So, in accountant speak, when a company has significant influence over another, we call that other company an associate. See? Simple, direct definition.
So what is significant influence? The real secret is in the wording here. It's the power to participate in the big decisions, not the power to control them. It's like you're a key voice in the room helping shape the outcome, but you're not the one who gets to slam the gavel and make the final call. That's the difference.
Now, to make life a little easier, the standard gives us this really handy rule of thumb. If you own 20% or more of another company's voting shares, the presumption is that you have significant influence. It's a great starting point.
But hold on, is it always that black and white? What if you own, say, 18%, but you have a ton of sway? Or maybe you own 22%, but you're just a silent partner? Well, this is where the standard gets a little more interesting.
Exactly. The standard tells us we have to look beyond just the numbers. You have to ask other questions. Do you have a director on their board? Are you actually in the room for policy-making meetings? Are your managers swapping jobs between the companies? Any of these things can prove significant influence exists, even if you own less than 20%. It really comes down to professional judgment.
Okay, so once we've established that yes, significant influence is there, what's next? Well, IAS 28 tells us we have to use a very specific procedure. It's called the equity method, and it's how we actually show this investment on the financial statements. So what is this thing? Well, the equity method is a dynamic way of accounting. It's not set it and forget it. You start by recording the investment for what you paid. That's the cost. But then, and this is the absolute key, you adjust that value up or down based on your share of how the associate is doing. It actually breaks down into 3 really simple steps. Step 1, record the initial purchase price. Easy. Step 2, adjust for your slice of their profits or losses. You can think of the associate like a pie. If the whole pie gets bigger, your slice gets bigger too. And step 3, if they pay you a dividend, you reduce your investment value because, hey, that cash is now in your pocket, not theirs. And this is where you can really see the difference compared to the simpler cost method. See, the cost method is static. The value just sits on the books at what you paid. But the equity method, it's dynamic. It moves and breathes with the associate's performance. It lets you recognize your share of the income as it's being earned, not just when you get a check in the mail.
So you might be thinking, okay, that sounds a little more involved. Why bother? Well, why does this method matter so much? It's all about one thing: providing a much truer, more honest financial picture.
I mean, think about it for a second. Let's say your associate is making tons of money, but they decide to reinvest all of it back into the business to grow. They pay 0 dividends. Well, under the old cost method, you'd show 0 income from that investment. That's totally misleading. The value of your investment is going up, but the books wouldn't show it at all.
And look, you don't have to take my word for it.
This is straight from the standard itself. It says the equity method provides more informative reporting. So the bottom line is, this method gives investors, and anyone reading the financials, a way more accurate and up-to-date look at how their investment is actually doing.
And that brings us to one last thought to leave you with. Okay, so the equity method is great at reflecting the performance of the company you've invested in. But does that mean it captures the investment's real-time market value? What someone would pay for it today? Not necessarily. And that gap between book value and market value? Well, that's just another fascinating puzzle in the world of accounting.